Welcome back to the Loosen Up Your Painting podcast. In this episode, I want to talk a little bit more about the subject of time and making the most of the time that is allocated to us. This is an article that I wrote for the Create Art magazine, and I wanted to just go into it with a little bit more detail, and it might spark a bit of insight or give you some inspiration and another point of view to consider. Before I get into that, you can get your free subscription to the Create Art magazine by visiting createartmagazine.com, and you'll receive that magazine in your inbox every second month. Next edition coming out on the 2nd of September. So the article is titled, You Know You're Only King for a Day. And this is a subject that is very dear to my heart because at that certain age that you're getting to at some point in your life, call it middle age, for want of a better term, where you kind of in the middle, literally looking ahead and looking behind you, but very often you're forgetting about the present. And you're worrying about the future, you have regrets or you nostalgia for the past, but you're missing out on the present. And that is a real problem for middle age, but also an opportunity. So in the article, I mentioned there that thinking about time is a slippery slope towards more serious rumination. How much time do I have left? My logical self does some simple maths and comes up with a fairly optimistic result. My spiritual self points out rather peevishly, I think, that I only have today. Tomorrow is in the future, which remains always uncertain. Now, I also want to refer to a few song lyrics of some songs that I grew up with or artists that I've listened to, and maybe you have as well. And the one set of lyrics comes from the song called Time by Pink Floyd, and it goes along the lines of ticking away the moments that make up a dull day. You fritter and waste the hours in an offhand way, kicking around on a piece of ground in your hometown, waiting for someone or something to show you the way. There's another song by Van Morrison called Precious Time, and the chorus goes something like, Precious time is slipping away, but you're only king for a day. It doesn't matter to which God you pray, precious time is slipping away. So all in all, Van Morrison has a much catchier melody for his song, and it'll get you tapping your feet along, I think. And then, of course, there's Pink Floyd, which has you reaching for that second shot with no ice, just straight. Pink Floyd certainly has a way of making you think about things and a little bit disconcerting. So melody or not, they both have a potentially grim message. Time is limited and you had better get that squared away in your head, otherwise you will squander that precious substance called time. Time is, after all, your living, breathing blink of a moment on this third rock from the sun. Now, I wrote the article on a Sunday afternoon, and Sundays still have a slightly elongated feel, even when you're in middle age, as if time has slowed a little. So maybe I feel a little bit fortunate with my lot on a Sunday, but still, this is nothing compared to the never-ending monotony of a Sunday afternoon from my youth in the 70s and 80s. Dear me, no. As a child, Sunday afternoons seemed to last for 48 hours, punctuated with a drive around in Dad's car along the Esplanade and up Main Street before meandering back home. There was a time in history when everybody went for a Sunday drive, their kids on the back seat. So there I am lying on the back seat, bored and annoyed that I was not allowed to stay home and keep reading or drawing. Then when you got back home, it was time to finish homework because Monday was looming, Of course, homework took another 24 hours of precious time. What a waste homework was. There was one highlight in our family, though, because Sunday evening was VHS movie night, and we watched whatever had just come out at the video store that past week, invariably something with Gene Hackman or Brian Dennehy. So those were good, simple times. Of course, I never really thought about time disappearing or being frittered away because I was a child. As an adult now, on the wrong side of 50, I have a much better appreciation of time. Pretty much along the lines of, what the hell happened to this week? How can it be Sunday already? And something like, where are my spectacles? That sort of thing. It's breathtaking, actually. Have you ever lain awake in bed thinking about your youthful goings-on and feeling quite desperate to go back in time? But you know that is impossible. Time has its firm, relentless hand on your back and pushes you onward. You want to bargain with time, but that, of course, is silly. So you wait, slipping back into sleep minutes before the alarm goes off, and spend the whole day sort of staggering around, not quite getting back into things until perhaps midday. So this had me thinking, and this is actually serious, because you might think it's a joke, but I guess I thought it was a joke the first time I heard of it. Perhaps we have been plonked into a parallel universe. So I'm not making this up. If you go and put a search into YouTube for the Mandela Effect, you'll see what I mean. Why does everything feel so off? Time is weird. We feel off kilter. Things are different, but only a little. The result is we feel discombobulated all the time. Now, the Mandela Effect describes a feeling of collective misremembering. Ostensibly, the idea held by many was that Nelson Mandela passed away in the 1980s, but in fact he died in 2013. I don't know who thought such a thing, since I live in South Africa, and I was certainly pertinently aware that Nelson Mandela was tucked away in jail during the 80s and became president of South Africa after the 1994 elections. So is this just a lot of nonsense? Not so fast. You remember the phrase, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? Well, of course you do. That's from Snow White, the movie from back in the day. Unfortunately, you're wrong. The line actually goes, magic mirror on the wall. To which I say, get out of here. Sadly, there are many examples of this collective misremembering, all of which leaves me thinking I'm losing my grip. What does this have to do with a parallel universe, you may ask? Well, according to some very clever thinkers, the dodgy experiments going on at CERN in Switzerland, and in particular through the use of the Large Hadron Collider, may have caused a cosmic shift or portal, resulting in our known universe getting a little shake-up, much like a caravan filled with household items being towed over a speed bump that jolts some of the items slightly out of place. The spot where you thought you placed the salt shaker is now occupied by a toothbrush. Some agree and others dispute the memory. Unfortunately, you cannot find the salt shaker either. It's disappeared entirely. This is all very weird, you say to yourself. But anyway, according to videos on YouTube, what if our rapidly disappearing time was accelerated as a result of CERN's experiments? Earth's space-time continuum slipped into a similar but different universe. That feeling of precious time slipping away too fast, perhaps our sense of misalignment, is due to forces beyond our control. That is the rub, isn't it? What can we control? The maestros of Pink Floyd did not waste time kicking around on a piece of ground in their hometown. Instead, they wrote the lyrics for Time, which became a track on their album Dark Side of the Moon, which went on to become the biggest selling album of all time. This must be very satisfying, not to mention lucrative for the band members. I've noted that their drummer, Nick Mason, has a fine taste for fast and exotic cars. I say, well done, mate. Enjoy them. You've used your time well. Van Morrison is also worth a pretty penny. Did he stop writing and performing in order to dedicate his time to sighing wistfully into a jar of Guinness? No, he wrote a song about it and made lots of fans happy. That's a song about time, of course, not beer. Despite currently being 80 years old and tracing a career back to the 60s, Van the man still keeps creating. It's not about the money. They have pots of it. It's about enjoying their time because they don't have pots of that. It seems that the happy and contented folks get on with doing what they love for as long as they can. They live for the day and are determined to make most of the precious time they have right now. Nothing can be gained by moping about the past, longing for the youthful things we did and wishing we had another go-around. Those days are gone, and if we are honest, there were some nasty moments too. So no, now is what we have, so let us get stuck in and make the most of it. Place a new canvas on the easel, open your journal, or whatever it is you love to do, and use this precious time. Who knows what you can do with the time you have today if you put your mind and focus into it. And that is the message. That is exactly what we need to do with time. Looking back or looking forward, it's just mental games and illusions and images. Of course, we need to plan ahead, invest if you can, and put aside something for a rainy day. We can learn that from Mother Nature, just observing other life forms around us. Things do put in the work, but they put in the work today. They don't wait for tomorrow or throw up their hands and go, what's the point? It's all gone. Everything good is gone and there's nothing to look forward to, so you may as well just sit around and watch TV. That doesn't work either. So my advice, of course, is to get creative. If you've been waiting to try out painting, for instance, stop waiting. Just get started. Use what you have right now. And if you want inspiration, hop onto my YouTube channel at Malcolm Dewey and you will find plenty for beginners and advanced painting. If there's other things you've been putting off that you feel you need to do and it's going to add value and enrichment to your life, maybe you need to talk to someone, pick up the phone or pay someone a visit, fix something that needs fixing, fix it today before it becomes worse tomorrow. Just get it done today. Use your time today and change your life. One thing leads to another, and a positive step today leads to good things. Well, if that's given you something to think about, maybe share this podcast with a friend as well who could use some inspiration and maybe just a different viewpoint on life. Well, it's been nice chatting to you about this, and maybe we can chat again soon. So subscribe to this podcast if you haven't done that already, and we will have something for you to listen to in the near future. Until then, happy painting and cheers for now.